So I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while, and this is the logarithmic chart of the S&P 500 going back all the way to 1871. And so this is a logarithmic chart. This is the normal linear chart, logarithmic chart, and these are just 4 lines that I drew that I think can not predict, but it's a pretty good way of showing where the stock market is headed for the foreseeable couple of months at least, or even a couple of years. So just to break this down, these 2 charts are the same thing. This one has yellow lines, this one has white lines. So let's just break it down. Stock market apparently moves in cycles of overperformance and underperformance. So we come over here, stock market really overperformed between the periods of 1921 to 1929. This is what's known as the Roaring 20s. Yes, that's what it's called. And then after that, the Great Depression, and we see that from 29 to 54. So since 1929, the stock market did not break a new all-time high until 1954. So that's during the Great Depression, during World War II, after World War II, after all the GI Bill, all of the all the stuff that happened after World War II, immense amount of stimulus, the little bit of quote unquote inflation that happened after. We didn't during this time, America was a superpower, and we didn't reach new all-time highs on equities until 15 years later. So actually, no, that's 25 years later. I'm sorry. And so, you might say, why do you consider this a period of underperformance? Because if you got in something like over here, the stock market did really good for you. It did a 265% over the course of 12 years, right? Yes, that is underperformance, because when we look at the next period, the period of overperformance, this is what overperformance looks like. So from 1954 to 1969, right over here, the stock market did a 272% in 15 years. Now you compare that. So now you compare that compared to, this in 25 years. This was a period of overperformance. So what happened next? Right after that was a period of underperformance. And that happened between the periods of 1969 all the way till 1982, right? So if you bought any stocks here, you didn't break even until, well, I guess you sort of made some money over here, and I guess you sort of made some money over here, but you really didn't really make any money until 1982, right? This is a period of underperformance. This was a really shitty time for stocks. A lot of people were bearish on stocks. A lot of people didn't want any money in stocks, mostly because this was a period of the Great Inflation. And then Volcker raised interest rates, which, there is some debate if the interest rates alone stopped inflation or the psychological aspects or some other stuff that is not even monetary but economical. Anyways, so after the period of underperformance, we have a period of overperformance. So that was between 1982 all the way to the dot-com bubble. So this was 18 years, 1,000% return on the stock market in 18 years. Whole lot better than what the period before it was, and a whole lot better during during the Great Depression era. So there's these cycles of underperformance and overperformance. So you could guess what happens next. This is between the periods of 2000 to 2008. It was a period of underperformance. It literally did nothing for around, let's measure it from here to here. Literally did nothing for 13 years, pretty much. If you bought any equities here, 1999, you broke even and started making money almost 13 years later. So this was a period of underperformance. So you could guess what happens next, a period of overperformance. And that's where we are now. And so far, we've been overperforming for around 7-8 years. And if you see, historically, we have, many, many years of overperformance, like 18 years over here, 1954 all the way to 69, so 15 years. So it would seem that we still have a long way to go during this period of overperformance. And what is really shocking, or what is really concerning, is that people are so into stocks right now. I know so many people that just like, especially guys my age, I'm 21 years old, all they want to do is like gamble into stocks, and they think, that's going to make them rich, which, it would be a great time, but not right now, because what's next, if you follow this pattern, is a period of underperformance sometime in the future. And that's going to suck, like really a lot. Because anytime we start a period of underperformance, which was here, and this is 69 here, and here, that's when there was a giant fall in equities. Anytime we started a period of underperformance, Great Depression, negative 83%. The start of the Great Inflation, this was negative 36%, but it was like this, blah, 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 for many, many years. This was the dot-com bubble, negative 49%. So the next large stock market crash should mark the beginning of the period of underperformance. And it's not going to be very pretty at all. It's going to be really shitty. A lot of people are going to lose money, but let's go back to the regression band. So knowing these periods of overperformance and underperformance, these logarithmic charts can help seriously nail at what price point the underperformance starts. So not when, because that's like pretty much impossible to know, but it pretty much nails when the underperformance starts. So again, underperformance started here, and 69 here. So you'll notice that we seem to be hitting these periods of underperformance once we hit the top parts of these regression bands. And let's take a closer look on these regression bands. Let's look at what we're looking at here. So when the Great Depression hit, it left these peaks, right? And if you get the tops of these peaks and you extrapolate them into the future in the current, in a slope, the peak here in 1929 was the peak of the dot-com bubble, okay? I don't know why I said okay. And the peak in this little area right here was a peak all throughout the 50s and the 60s, and it was the peak during the Great Recession in 2008. So, that was pretty interesting, right? This, all this, all this, all this, all this, and this. So that's kind of interesting. And this little peak over here was the peak for, actually, this is more important because it was the bottom of the dot-com bubble, and it was the bottom of the COVID crash in February last year. So let's draw this out. Right? Support. Not to mention support here. So I think there's something to this. I mean, these trend lines are pretty powerful. Oh God, I'm sorry guys. And if we go once again to the bottom over here, bottom, and it was the bottom during the 2008 Great Recession. So I think these lines have merit. I don't think I just pulled these lines out of my butt. I do think these lines are somewhat significant. So where does that leave us, right? People say right now we're living in the greatest bubble of all time in American history or whatever, and I think that is true, but I still think we have quite a while to go, because I don't think we're going to start heading down or have some kind of big crash until we hit the top of the highest regression band. And you'll notice that this regression band, even though there's only like 2 data points, anytime we hit the top part here, that's not great news. And really simple idea here. Just wait till we hit the top of the yellow line, and that's, it's not like as soon as we touch it, we're gonna like go down like that. Maybe we do something like, we just like, and then go down. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but I would not be shorting the market anytime soon for any like ginormous monumental sell-offs. I do think we have some time to run. I mean, like, right now we have around 20%, right? But, we're not going to go here overnight. So let's just like say it takes like a couple of years, like, like another 32% left to go in the markets. Okay, one final thought before I go is that I think it is interesting how the euro dollar futures curve inverted, I think a couple of weeks ago. And last time it inverted was in 2006 and 2018. 2 times before, so 2006, 2 years before the great financial crisis, 2018 before the whole COVID thing over here. And so it curved this year in 2021. And so if we look at this chart and we look at 2023, it's between these periods right here. And so, is it possible that the futures curve is pricing in this little event right here? I don't know, but I think it is, it is quite interesting how the futures, euro-dollar futures curve inversion seems to call something out 2 years into the future. And 2 years from now, it seems to be when we start hitting the top end of this regression band. I don't know, call me nuts. I'm probably going to look back on this video many years from now, and I'll try to look at this and like, wow, was I some sort of like crazy guy? And you know what? Actually, let me admit this. I didn't come up with this myself. I actually found this, believe it or not, I found this beautiful chart on Wall Street Bets. I mean, this was like quite a while ago, and I was just scrolling in it, and some guy just like posted this chart on Wall Street Bets, and I clicked on it. I didn't think much of it, but then when I looked closer at this chart, I was like, wow, everyone looks at the S&P 500 like this, but nobody looks at it as a log chart. And if you think about what a log chart and a regression band indicates, it indicates network effects, like how Bitcoin has regression bands and Ethereum has regression bands because they all follow network effects. And if you think about what the stock market is, it's kind of like network effects for money. And, American stock market is the biggest market and the most valuable and the most sought after market. So it has the best network effects. I haven't checked like the other stock markets around the world, like Japanese stocks or British stocks or anything like that. So I don't know if this works everywhere, but there's some stuff going on here, and there's some patterns that's been going on for centuries, or not centuries, but for a century now, or almost a century. And so it's kind of interesting. I really do think history goes in cycles because people make similar decisions under similar circumstances. So I think this chart is a good representation of that. So I hope I didn't sound like a crazy person and this chart makes sense to you. If you like videos like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.